There comes a moment in life when something inside you becomes completely still. You stop chasing, you stop explaining, you stop checking who noticed you, who ignored you, who changed toward you, and who suddenly became distant. You stop asking yourself what you did wrong, and strangely, this is the moment when everything begins to change. There is a moment when you finally understand that chasing people does not create connection, it creates imbalance. You can give someone your attention, your time, your energy, your explanations, your patience, and even your pride, but none of these things can force another person to genuinely value you. The more desperately you try to hold on to someone who is pulling away, the more power you surrender. You begin measuring your worth through their response. If they answer quickly, you feel important. If they become distant, you feel rejected. If they ignore you, you become restless. You start searching for reasons, changing your behavior, sending another message, explaining yourself again, hoping that somehow you can restore what has already changed. But the truth is simple. You cannot convince someone to choose you. You can only decide whether you will continue standing at a door that someone else refuses to open. Chasing often begins innocently. You think you are showing care. You think persistence proves loyalty. You think if you just communicate better, give more, become more understanding, or demonstrate your value, the other person will finally recognize what you bring. But there is a dangerous point where persistence becomes self-abandonment. You are no longer expressing genuine affection. You are negotiating for basic attention. You are no longer building a relationship. You are trying to prevent someone from leaving. This is where you must stop. Not with anger, not with revenge, not with dramatic announcements. Simply stop. Withdraw the unnecessary effort and observe what happens. When you stop carrying the entire relationship, you discover whether the other person was ever willing to carry their side. When you stop initiating every conversation, you learn who actually wants to speak with you. When you stop solving every problem, you discover who takes responsibility. When you stop constantly making yourself available, you discover who valued your presence and who simply valued your convenience. This is why detachment is powerful. It reveals reality. As long as you are constantly intervening, you can keep an unhealthy connection alive through your own effort. You can mistake your effort for mutual interest because you are doing so much that there is no room for the truth to appear. But when you step back, the situation speaks for itself. Some people will move toward you. Others will disappear. Do not panic when they disappear. Their absence may be information, not punishment. It may be showing you that you were trying to maintain something that depended entirely on your effort. This is not a reason to become bitter. It is a reason to become wiser. Your goal is not to make everyone chase you. Your goal is to stop chasing people who have already shown you that they do not want to walk beside you. There is tremendous dignity in allowing people to make their own choices. If someone wants distance, give them distance. If someone repeatedly ignores you, stop demanding their attention. If someone continually makes you feel unwanted, believe the pattern instead of endlessly waiting for a different version of them. People communicate through behavior far more clearly than through words. You do not need to interrogate every silence. You do not need to decode every delayed response. You do not need to convince someone that you deserve respect. Watch what they consistently do, then make your decision. This is where self-respect begins. You realize that your time is not unlimited and your attention is not worthless. Every hour spent trying to win someone over is an hour that could have been invested in building your own life. The person who stops chasing does not become empty. They become available for something better. They redirect energy toward their goals, their skills, their health, their work, their creativity, and their future. They begin constructing a life that does not collapse when one person walks away. Eventually, something changes inside them. They no longer ask, how can I make this person choose me? They ask, why would I choose someone who continually refuses to choose me? That question changes everything, because now you are no longer negotiating from fear. You are making decisions from self-respect. You understand that genuine relationships should contain reciprocity. You should not have to constantly prove that you are worthy of basic consideration. You should not have to perform emotional acrobatics to keep someone interested. You should not have to become smaller, quieter, or more convenient just to prevent abandonment. Let people reveal their level of interest without interference. Let them approach you because they genuinely want to. Let them make the effort. Let them demonstrate consistency. And if they do not, accept the information without destroying yourself over it. The strongest person is not the one who can make everyone stay. It is the one who can remain whole when someone chooses to leave. Once you understand that, chasing loses its attraction. You begin to see that what is truly meant for you does not require constant begging, manipulation, or desperation. You can communicate your interest once. You can make your intentions clear. You can offer genuine effort. But after that, you must allow the other person to respond freely. Their response belongs to them. Your dignity belongs to you. Protect it. Because the moment you stop chasing what does not choose you, you create space for people, opportunities, and experiences that recognize your value without requiring you to destroy yourself if to earn their attention. One of the greatest forms of freedom begins when you realize that most people are not thinking about you nearly as much as you imagine. You spend enormous amounts of energy wondering what they think, how they perceive you, whether they approve of your choices, whether they respect you, whether they secretly judge you, and whether your decisions make you look successful or foolish. But while you're busy managing their opinions, you are slowly giving them control over your life. You begin choosing clothes because of how they might look to others, making decisions because of what your family might say, hiding your ambitions because someone might laugh, remaining in situations because leaving would make people question you, and sometimes even abandoning your own instincts because you are afraid of being misunderstood. This is how external approval becomes a prison. The moment you understand that you cannot control perception, you become much harder to control. People will interpret you through their own experiences, insecurities, expectations, and prejudices. One person may see confidence where another sees arrogance. One may see independence where another sees selfishness. One may see ambition where another sees obsession. You can spend your entire life trying to correct these interpretations, but there will always be someone who misunderstands you. Therefore, your task is not to control every opinion. Your task is to become clear about who you are and what you stand for. When you know your values, other people's judgments become less threatening. You can listen without immediately obeying. You can accept criticism without allowing it to define you. You can recognize useful feedback while rejecting unnecessary negativity. This distinction is important because detachment does not mean becoming incapable of learning. It means refusing to make every opinion a command. Some people criticize you because they genuinely see something you cannot see in yourself. Others criticize you because your growth makes them uncomfortable. Wisdom requires knowing the difference. Do not automatically accept praise and do not automatically accept criticism. Study the source, study the intention, study the pattern, then decide what deserves your attention. The person who constantly seeks approval becomes predictable. If you know exactly what they fear others will think, you know how to influence them. They can be pressured into decisions simply by threatening embarrassment, rejection, or disapproval. But when you become comfortable being misunderstood, these forms of control lose their power. You can walk into a room without needing everyone to admire you. You can express an opinion without desperately needing agreement. You can pursue a goal without announcing it to everyone. You can leave a situation without explaining your entire decision to people who have no responsibility for your life. This creates a different kind of confidence. It is quieter because it does not require an audience. You no longer need to constantly display success because you are focused on becoming successful. You no longer need to convince people that you are strong because you are busy strengthening yourself. You no longer need to prove that you are valuable because your actions already reflect your standards. The less you depend on external validation, the more honest your life becomes. You start making choices based on what actually matters to you instead of what will produce the safest reaction from others. You may discover that some people dislike your boundaries. Let them. Some may question your ambition. Let them. Some may not understand why you changed. Let them. Growth often looks strange to people who benefited from the old version of you. If they were accustomed to your constant availability, your new boundaries may look like arrogance. If they were accustomed to controlling your decisions, your independence may look like rebellion. But you cannot remain small simply because your previous identity made other people comfortable. Your life belongs to you. This does not mean you should become careless about how you affect others. Character still matters. Respect still matters. Integrity still matters. But there is a major difference between being considerate and being controlled. Consideration asks, am I treating people fairly? Dependence asks, will they approve of me? The first builds character, the second weakens it. Learn to live the discomfort of disappointing people when necessary. Learn to hear no without questioning your worth. Learn to hear criticism without immediately becoming defensive. Learn to hear praise without becoming addicted to it. When you can remain stable through both approval and rejection, you become emotionally independent. That stability changes the way you move through the world. You become more deliberate. You speak less impulsively. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You choose your battles carefully. You begin to understand that silence can be healthier than endless justification. Not everyone deserves access to your reasoning. Not everyone has earned the right to know why you made a particular decision. Sometimes the strongest answer is simply to continue. The people who truly matter will judge you through your consistent actions rather than isolated moments. They will understand that your path is yours. And those who insist on misunderstanding you may never have been capable of understanding you in the first place. Once you detach from the opinions of others, you discover something unexpected. You have more energy. Energy that was previously spent worrying becomes available for creation. Energy spent defending yourself becomes available for improvement. Energy spent seeking approval becomes available for building a life that actually satisfies you. You begin to measure yourself by internal standards. Did you keep your word? Did you act with courage? Did you improve today? Did you remain disciplined when nobody was watching? Did you protect your values when pressure appeared? These questions matter far more than whether everyone applauded you. At some point, you realize that approval is temporary, opinions are unstable, and reputation can change overnight. But character is built slowly and carried everywhere. So stop allowing the crowd to become the voice inside your head. Listen, observe, learn, but ultimately decide for yourself. The moment you stop living for other people's approval, you begin living with intention. And when you no longer need everyone to understand you, you become free to become the person you were capable of becoming all along. There is a kind of power that becomes visible only when you stop reacting. Most people believe strength means responding quickly, defending yourself immediately, correcting every misunderstanding, answering every insult, and proving that nobody can disrespect them. But this often reveals the opposite. The person who reacts to everything is not necessarily powerful. They may simply be controlled by everything around them. A careless comment can change their mood. A delayed message can make them anxious. A criticism can make them defensive. An insult can pull them into an argument. Someone else's behavior becomes the switch that controls their emotional state. When you learn to pause, something changes. You create distance between what happens and what you choose to do about it. That distance is where self-control lives. Imagine someone says something designed to provoke you. Your first instinct may be to respond immediately because silence feels like weakness. You want to prove that you are not afraid. You want to correct the person. You want the final word. But what happens if you simply observe? You give yourself time to understand the situation instead of becoming part of it. Perhaps the person is trying to get a reaction. Perhaps they are projecting their own insecurity. Perhaps the comment does not deserve your attention at all. Perhaps there is useful criticism hidden inside it. When you react instantly, you lose the ability to distinguish between these possibilities. You become emotionally involved before you have understood the situation. Silence gives you information. It allows other people to reveal more of themselves. When someone becomes angry and you remain composed, they may continue talking, they may explain too much, they may reveal their intentions, they may expose contradictions, they may say things they would have hidden if you had immediately challenged them. Your silence becomes a form of observation. This does not mean you should remain silent in every situation. There are moments when speaking clearly is necessary. Boundaries must sometimes be stated. Injustice sometimes requires action. Important conversations cannot always be avoided. But the difference is that you speak because you have decided speaking is useful, not because your emotions demanded an immediate response. That distinction separates impulse from strategy. Before answering, ask yourself what your response will accomplish. Will it solve something? Will it protect something important? Will it establish a boundary? Will it clarify the truth? Or are you simply trying to release anger? If the only purpose is emotional release, waiting may be wiser. Anger wants speed. Wisdom prefers timing. This is why a calm person can appear powerful without raising their voice. They are not easily pulled from their position. They can listen to criticism without collapsing. They can hear disrespect without immediately becoming disrespectful themselves. They can walk away from an argument without feeling that they lost. They understand that winning every conversation is not the same as winning in life. Sometimes you win by refusing to participate. Think about how much energy people waste trying to get the final word. They send long explanations, write emotional messages, revisit old arguments, demand apologies, and try to force others to acknowledge their perspective. Yet even after all of this, they often remain frustrated because they are trying to control another person's mind. You cannot force someone to understand you. You cannot force someone to admit they were wrong. You cannot force someone to respect you simply by arguing harder. Sometimes the strongest statement is the decision to remove yourself from the conversation. This is especially important when dealing with people who deliberately provoke. If someone learns that anger can control you, they will eventually use anger as a tool. If they learn that silence makes you uncomfortable, they may create situations simply to force you into reacting. But when you become comfortable with pauses, they lose that leverage. You become unpredictable because you no longer respond according to their expectations. You observe first, you decide second, you act third. This creates emotional discipline. The goal is not to become emotionless. Emotions contain information, but they should not automatically become instructions. You can feel anger without acting from anger. You can feel jealousy without making a jealous decision. You can feel fear without allowing fear to choose your direction. You can feel hurt without turning your pain into revenge. The emotion can exist while your judgment remains in control. That is real strength. With practice, you begin noticing how much unnecessary conflict disappears when you stop responding to every provocation. Some arguments die because you refuse to feed them. Some people lose interest because they could no longer get an emotional reaction from you. Some situations resolve themselves because you gave them time instead of making them worse through impulsive decisions. And sometimes silence allows you to recognize that you were wrong. That realization is valuable. A person obsessed with appearing powerful cannot admit mistakes because their identity depends on always being right. But someone who values truth more than ego can pause, reconsider, and change direction. Silence creates room for that honesty. It allows you to think before protecting your pride. The strongest people are not those who never speak. They are those who know when their words have value and when silence has greater value. They understand that every reaction has a cost. Every argument consumes energy. Every emotional message creates consequences. Every impulsive decision can become something you later have to repair. So become selective. Do not let every person become a director of your emotions. Do not let every comment pull you away from your purpose. Do not let temporary anger make permanent decisions. Pause, observe, breathe, think. Then decide whether the situation deserves your response. The more you practice this, the more control you regain over your life. People may still provoke you, criticize you, misunderstand you, or attempt to pull you into unnecessary conflict, but you no longer have to follow them into every emotional battlefield. Your silence becomes deliberate, your words become more precise, your actions become more meaningful, and eventually, people recognize that they cannot easily control you with noise, pressure, or provocation because you have learned the discipline of choosing your response instead of surrendering it. For too long, many people build their lives around the reactions of others. They wake up thinking about who will call, who will notice them, who will approve of them, who might leave, and who might return. Their attention is constantly moving outward, searching for signs that they matter. But when your entire emotional world is built around other people, you slowly lose contact with yourself. Your goals become secondary. Your peace becomes negotiable. Your decisions become dependent on circumstances you cannot control. You begin living as a supporting character in your own life. The transformation begins when you turn your attention back toward yourself. This does not mean becoming selfish or ignoring everyone around you. It means understanding that your life requires your direction. Other people can influence your journey, but they should not become the architects of it. You must know what you are building, where you are going, and what kind of person you want to become. Without that clarity, you become easily distracted by whoever enters your life. One person gives you attention, and suddenly they become your priority. Another person withdraws, and suddenly your entire mood changes. Someone criticizes your ambition, and you begin doubting your path. Someone praises you, and you become dependent on their approval. This creates instability because your center exists outside of you. When you make yourself the center of your own life, you begin asking different questions. What am I building? What do I want to learn? What habits are making me stronger? What relationships actually improve my life? What am I tolerating that I should no longer tolerate? What have I been postponing because I was too focused on someone else? These questions return your attention to where it belongs. Your life becomes less about being chosen and more about choosing. You choose how you spend your time. You choose what deserves your attention. You choose which relationships receive your energy. You choose which habits you will maintain. You choose whether disappointment will become an excuse or a lesson. This is where independence begins. A person who has a strong inner direction cannot be easily distracted by temporary approval. They may appreciate compliments, but they do not depend on them. They may value relationships, but they do not abandon themselves to maintain them. They may love deeply, but they still have a life beyond the relationship. This balance creates strength. You can care about someone without making them your entire identity. You can support someone without forgetting your own goals. You can be present for others without becoming absent from yourself. Many people make the mistake of believing that putting themselves first means putting everyone else last. That is not the point. The point is to stop putting yourself last. There is a difference. You can be generous without being self-destructive. You can be kind without being constantly available. You can help people without sacrificing everything you are building. You can love others without making their happiness your responsibility. When you begin prioritizing yourself, your relationships often change. Some people may appreciate the healthier version of you. Others may resist because they benefited from your lack of boundaries. Do not interpret their resistance as proof that you are doing something wrong. Sometimes people become uncomfortable when they can no longer access you whenever they want. They may call you distant. They may say you have changed, and you have. But change is not always betrayal. Sometimes change is the natural result of finally respecting yourself. Your attention is limited. Your energy is limited. Your time is limited. Every moment spent obsessing over another person's behavior is a moment removed from your own development. Imagine what would happen if you invested that same energy into your skills, your work, your body, your education, your creativity, and your future. Instead of checking whether someone has noticed you, you would be improving yourself. Instead of wondering why someone has not replied, you would be building something that makes you proud. Instead of replaying an argument in your head, you would be planning your next move. This is how your life becomes powerful again. You stop waiting for external events to make you feel alive. You create movement yourself. You become responsible for your direction. There will still be disappointment. There will still be rejection. There will still be people who leave. But these things no longer have the power to completely derail you because your identity is anchored somewhere deeper. You know who you are becoming. You have goals that existed before certain people entered your life and will continue after some of them leave. This creates emotional stability. You are no longer constantly adjusting yourself to fit someone else's expectations. You become more comfortable saying no. You become more comfortable spending time alone. You become more comfortable pursuing something without immediate recognition. You understand that meaningful growth often happens privately before anyone else notices. The strongest transformation occurs when you stop asking the world to give you a reason to value yourself and start creating evidence through your own actions. Keep promises to yourself. Finish what you start. Develop discipline. Protect your peace. Learn from your failures. Improve your weaknesses. Celebrate your progress without needing an audience. Every time you do this, your relationship with yourself becomes stronger. And when that relationship becomes strong, you become less desperate for external validation. You no longer need someone else to constantly remind you that you matter. You know, because you have experienced your own effort, discipline, resilience, and growth. That is what it means to make yourself the center of your own life. It means you stop abandoning your path every time someone enters or exits it. You allow people to walk beside you, but you do not hand them the steering wheel. You listen to them, respect them, love them, and learn from them, but you remain responsible for where your life goes. Once you understand this, your decisions become clearer, your relationships become healthier, and your attention becomes more valuable because it is no longer scattered everywhere. You are building a life that does not depend on who stays, who leaves, who approves, or who notices. You are building a life that belongs to you. There's a great temptation to force people to reveal what they truly think, feel, or intend. When someone becomes distant, you want an explanation. When someone behaves differently, you want answers. When you sense dishonesty, you want to confront them immediately. When you feel that someone is hiding something, you want to pressure them until they finally tell you the truth. But forcing people rarely gives you clarity. More often, it gives you a performance. People tell you what they think you want to hear when they feel pressured. They become defensive, they create excuses, they change the subject, or they simply learn to hide their intentions more carefully. There is another approach, one that requires more patience, but gives you far more information. Step back and observe. Give people enough space to reveal themselves through their own behavior. Human beings communicate constantly, even when they are silent. Their patterns reveal more than their promises. Someone can tell you they respect you, but their repeated actions will eventually demonstrate whether that respect is real. Someone can promise loyalty, but pressure will reveal whether their loyalty has depth. Someone can claim to support your success, but your growth will reveal whether their support is genuine. This is why observation is more powerful than interrogation. When you stop forcing answers, people often become careless. They assume you are not watching closely. They begin showing patterns that cannot easily be explained away. Watch how someone behaves when they have nothing to gain from you. Watch how they treat people who cannot help them. Watch how they respond when you say no. Watch how they behave when you succeed. Watch whether their kindness remains when they are disappointed. These moments reveal character. Anyone can behave well when everything is going their way. Character becomes visible when circumstances become inconvenient. If you constantly intervene, you may prevent these moments from appearing. You keep fixing situations before they reveal their natural direction. You keep forgiving patterns before understanding them. You keep giving people opportunities to explain themselves instead of allowing their actions to speak. This does not mean becoming suspicious of everyone. It means becoming less dependent on words alone. Trust should be built through consistency. When someone repeatedly demonstrates honesty, reliability, and respect, trust becomes reasonable. When their words and actions continually contradict each other, pay attention. You do not need to accuse them. You do not need to expose them publicly. You simply adjust your level of trust. This is one of the most important forms of emotional intelligence. Learning to collect information without immediately reacting to it. You see something, you remember it, you observe whether it happens again, you compare words with actions. Then you make a decision based on patterns rather than isolated moments. Many people make mistakes because they judge too quickly. Someone disappoints them once, and they immediately declare that person terrible. Someone compliments them once, and they immediately assume the person is trustworthy. Both reactions are premature. A single moment can be misleading. Patterns are harder to fake. Give people time. Time reveals priorities. Time reveals consistency. Time reveals whether promises become actions. Time reveals whether kindness is genuine or strategic. Time reveals whether someone respects boundaries or only respects you when you are giving them what they want. This is why patience can become a powerful form of self-protection. You do not have to know everything immediately. You do not need every answer today. Let circumstances unfold. If someone is pretending, maintaining the performance forever becomes difficult. If someone is genuine, consistency will eventually confirm it. Your role is not to force the truth into existence. Your role is to notice it when it appears. This also changes the way you handle relationships. Instead of trying to control people, you give them freedom to show you who they are. You stop trying to make them behave differently. You stop constantly correcting them. You stop explaining why they should respect you. You establish your standards and then observe what they do. If they respect those standards, the relationship can deepen. If they repeatedly violate them, you gain information. You do not need a dramatic confrontation every time. Sometimes your response can simply be distance. The beauty of this approach is that it protects your peace while increasing your understanding. You do not waste energy fighting for information that someone's behavior will eventually provide. You become less reactive and more strategic. You listen carefully, you watch quietly, you notice details that emotional attachment might otherwise hide. You begin recognizing the difference between someone's potential and their actual character. This is important because many people fall in love with potential. They imagine who someone could become and then ignore who that person consistently chooses to be. But you cannot build a relationship with potential. You build it with reality. Let people show you reality. If someone wants to be present, their behavior will demonstrate it. If someone values you, their actions will contain evidence. If someone repeatedly chooses distance, believe the pattern. You do not need to chase them for an explanation. Their behavior is already communicating. This approach requires discipline. because your emotions may demand immediate answers. You may want certainty. You may want reassurance. You may want to know exactly what someone is thinking. But sometimes the desire for certainty causes you to overlook the evidence already in front of you. Learn to tolerate uncertainty long enough for reality to reveal itself. That patience can save you from countless mistakes. People will always tell you stories about themselves. Some will be honest, some will exaggerate. Some will hide their weaknesses, some will present an image designed to impress you. But eventually, behavior becomes difficult to disguise. Watch what people repeatedly do, especially when they believe nobody important is watching. That is where character speaks most clearly. You do not need to force anyone to reveal themselves. Give them time, give them freedom, and observe. The truth has a habit of appearing when you stop trying to drag it into the light. There is a point in your development when you realize that losing someone does not have to mean losing yourself. For many people, the departure of another person feels like the collapse of their entire world because they built too much of their identity around that relationship. Their happiness became connected to someone else's presence. Their confidence depended on someone's attention. Their future was imagined around someone who could leave at any moment. When that person disappears, everything seems to disappear with them. But the problem was never simply the loss of another person. The deeper problem was that you had stopped building a life that could stand without them. You had placed too much of your emotional foundation outside yourself. The solution is not to become cold or incapable of attachment. The solution is to become so deeply connected to your own purpose that no single person can become the entire meaning of your existence. People will enter your life, and some will stay for years while others will stay for only a season. This is part of human nature. Relationships change, circumstances change, people grow in different directions. Sometimes someone leaves because the relationship has reached its natural end. Sometimes betrayal forces separation. Sometimes distance develops slowly until two people realize they are no longer walking toward the same future. Whatever the reason, you cannot build your identity around the assumption that everyone will remain forever. When you understand this, you begin investing in yourself differently. You develop interests that belong to you. You create goals that existed before the relationship and will remain after it. You build friendships, skills, habits, and ambitions that give your life multiple sources of meaning. You become emotionally stronger because your entire sense of purpose is no longer concentrated in one person. This is not about preparing for people to leave. It is about refusing to abandon yourself while they are present. Too many people disappear inside relationships. They stop pursuing their goals. They stop maintaining their friendships. They stop learning. They stop developing. They make another person the center of every decision until their own identity becomes difficult to recognize. Then, when the relationship ends, they are forced to rediscover themselves from the beginning. Do not wait for loss to teach you this lesson. Keep building yourself while you love others. Keep your standards. Keep your interests. Keep your discipline. Keep your relationship with your own future. Give affection without surrendering your identity. Give loyalty without surrendering your independence. Love someone deeply without making them responsible for your entire emotional existence. When your life has depth, loss hurts, but it does not destroy you. You can grieve without collapsing. You can miss someone without chasing them. You can remember beautiful moments without pretending the relationship must return. You can accept that something mattered and still accept that it ended. This is emotional maturity. The goal is not to feel nothing. The goal is to feel everything without allowing pain to control your decisions. When you are deeply focused on your own growth, rejection becomes information rather than a verdict on your worth. Someone choosing another path does not automatically mean you are inadequate. It means their choice belongs to them. You can respect it while continuing yours. This mindset also changes how you behave in relationships. You stop clinging because you know that love cannot be held through fear. You stop manipulating because you know that genuine connection cannot be forced. You stop constantly checking whether someone is still interested because your attention is occupied with building a meaningful life. You become more attractive not because you are pretending to be unavailable, but because you actually have a life worth living. Your confidence comes from competence, not performance. Your peace comes from self-trust, not constant reassurance. Your identity comes from your character, not someone else's opinion. This creates a quiet strength. You can welcome people without needing them desperately. You can enjoy companionship without fearing solitude. You can appreciate love without turning it into dependency. You can walk away from unhealthy situations without feeling that you have lost your entire future. The future still belongs to you. Your goals still belong to you. Your mind still belongs to you. Your ability to learn, create, improve, and begin again still belongs to you. No person can take these things unless you surrender them. That is why your greatest protection against loss is not emotional numbness. It is self-development. Build yourself so consistently that your life continues to move even when circumstances change. When someone leaves, return to your purpose. When someone rejects you, return to your growth. When someone misunderstands you, return to your values. When someone disappoints you, return to your standards. When loneliness appears, use it as space to strengthen your relationship with yourself. The person who can enjoy their own company becomes difficult to manipulate through fear of abandonment. They do not stay in terrible situations simply because being alone scares them. They do not accept disrespect simply because they fear losing someone. They understand that solitude is sometimes healthier than companionship that destroys their peace. This does not mean rejecting connection. Human beings need relationships, but healthy relationships should add to your life rather than replace it. The strongest bond you can build is the one you have with your own character. When you trust yourself to survive disappointment, you become less afraid of it. When you trust yourself to rebuild, you become less terrified of endings. When you know you can continue growing, no goodbye has the power to erase your future. People may leave your life, but your purpose does not have to leave with them. Your responsibility is to keep moving, keep learning, keep becoming, and keep building a life so deeply rooted in your own values that another person's departure can change your circumstances without destroying who you are.